last 30 seconds. All right. Just waiting for the little digital clock here. There we go. It's 7 o'clock. I'll call a meeting order, please. Roll call.
Brooks,
Yes.
Kushner, Lund, Bentley,
Here.
Holmberg,
Here. Okay, item 3, approval of city council minutes. City council minutes of 9/13.
Move to approve.
Brooks,
Yes.
Bentley,
Yes.
Holmberg,
Yes. Okay, item 4, adoption of agenda.
Move to adopt.
Brooks,
Yes.
Bentley,
Yes.
Holmberg,
Yes. Okay, item 5, presentation 5.1, presentation on sewer rate charges. Presented by HDR Engineering.
Good evening.
Good evening, sir.
So I'll walk you through the rate review. Tonight, we're just going to do a review of your budgeted expenditures versus where we expect your revenues to be for 2022 and talk through the results of that. So we start each of these rate reviews by taking a look at what happened in the previous year or the current year that we're in. And so what you'll see on this chart, the center column is what was anticipated for this year versus what you see on the right is where we see this year ending up from a number of monthly bills from a usage standpoint. And what you'll see in that is they actually came out very, very close. Look at the number of monthly bills, you're within, 20 monthly bills. Residential usage through the first 9 or 10 months, averaging that for the rest was again, very, very close to what was estimated. And then the commercial industrial consumption is a little bit down, but not much. And you'll see on the next slide, this is what we kind of see from year to year. We see a little bit of a decrease in the consumption itself. You'll notice on the bottom of that page, the revenue though is tracking higher. I did take a look. Amanda Bagwell with our firm did the review last year. She had made some different assumptions for that consumption on the residential side, how much was in the 0 to 2 category versus 2 and above. It is different rates. So she had assumed more in the 0 to 2, and this year it's been the flip flop of that. There's been more usage in the greater than 2 CCF. So your revenue is tracking higher, which is always good news, right? The next slide basically shows that consumption, over time. And as you get new residential homes built with low use fixtures, you do see that tracking over time, as well as you've had some minor rate increases each year. You do see people start to conserve a little bit. So you're kind of seeing that usage. Usage, there was not much of a drop from 2020 to 2021 at all. The 2 bars on the right-hand side, and some of that may be a little bit of impact of COVID, of people working from home or being at home a little more. You didn't really see much of a drop off in usage this last year. So the next thing I do when I make these comparisons is I really look at the complete picture on the revenue standpoint moving forward. So in the middle, you'll see 2021 budget year. I went ahead and updated that sewer rate revenue to be the higher number as we had shown. So anticipating that by the close of this fiscal year, you'll be about 5.3 million in total revenues. For 2022, what you carried in the budget was the previous year's sewer rate revenue, so it's a little bit less. So we'd anticipate it would be more than the almost 5.1 million that's within the budget for 2022. And if you have questions, just go ahead and stop me along the way. Then on the next slide, we make that expenditure comparison. I've actually given you 3 columns. That middle column from an expenditure standpoint is this time last year when that rate review is being looked at, what that budget was. And then kind of the 2021 final, and you'll notice it is higher from the expenditure standpoint. I believe there was a blower project added to that budget. Pause for the train for a second. But in your own mind, then you can kind of make a comparison for that total expenditures before depreciation. You'll see 2021 at about 6.3 million. And as we just went over, revenue is probably about 5.3 million. So as a council, you knew that going into the fact that you would have to work from some of the cash on hand And then the rate increases were reflective of that. Then we look at 2022, again, you see an increase in total expenditures from that 6.3 million up to almost $7 million. There was a SCADA improvement project at the plant, as well as another round of blowers within that proposed budget that basically bring that up. The true picture that you always want as a council is, where does that really leave me? We know that we're spending cash on hand, different between the budget years. And so what I've shown is the cash on hand at the end of August was almost around $2.8 million. So you had a pretty healthy balance. And then I took the 2021 and I basically looked at the expenditures to date and what expended just basically brought you up to the budget amount for 2021. And with that, you'll end up at about $1.2 million cash reserve if you spend all of that budget in 2021. Then I took your 2022 proposed budget, kind of that next set of columns over. I left it at your original amounts, which are kind of shown in the middle. And you'll see that based upon the anticipated cash on hand and the 1.9 million deficit for this year with the budgets, you would end up about 700,000 insufficient revenues to basically pay those bills. I then, in the red numbers, increased that for just the base revenue difference that we saw for what you had this year, but you'll see you still have a deficit of about 455,000. And then we looked at, through staff's direction, pulling basically delaying blower improvement project at the treatment plants. And you'll see that just about brings you flush from a revenue perspective. But you obviously don't want to operate the utility with $0 cash in the bank. So what we went ahead and looked at was continuing. Last year, you had about a 5% rate increase last year. So continuing the 5% rate increase and looking at the impact of that. You'll notice on this slide that volume charge for the 0 to 2 CCF or the small customers is unchanged, much in the direction of what councils have done in the past. The greater than 2 CCF, you'll see I've increased that from $6.03 to $6.53 or 50 cents per CCF for any usage over 2 CCF. Then I basically, that equates to about a 5% increase in the total residential rate when you consider the fixed charge and the volume charge. Did the similar approach for the commercial, and you'll see that volume charge goes from 529 to 573 if you do that. Then took a look at what's the impact. And we did that normally. Council passes the rate increase near the end of the year. So you get about 9 months of a rate increase out of it for the year. And you'll see then the 2022 proposed with that increase, with that original budget, you still end up with a deficit of about $330,000. However, you look at the right, if you delay that blower project, you end up with around $300,000 cash still in the bank. So I'll pause there and see if you have any questions related to that.
So we're delaying that blow. How long can we do that?
So actually, one of the recommendations that we're going to put in front of you is to use our American Rescue Plan Act funds to go ahead and pay for that blower project. We presented to you at a previous meeting about the first round of blower replacement, and we talked about how dire need we are to replace those blowers. So we don't really truly want to delay that project, but we do think that we have about $3.7 million, and one of our recommendations will be to go ahead and move forward with that blower project with those funds.
Okay.
What are the odds of that being approved?
Well, we already have the money. We actually got our distribution. When you say approved, do you mean?
I'm sorry, the way you said it, I thought that it was for a future distribution that we're going to ask them to cover the blowers,
So at
not
this
out of the
point-
money we've already.
At this point, it's up to the city council how we spend those funds.
Okay.
So
Thank you.
So couple more, just as a comparison real quick. This was going into this year. You'll see that the blue bar represents standard residential 5,000 gallon customer within the city of Warrensburg. You were kind of on that, I would say middle, just slightly less than average of a number of different communities within kind of the Kansas City metro and extending out this way. I went ahead and updated that for this year with the rate increases. And we also went out to all those member communities. You'll see from the height of those bars, it did change. Unfortunately, sewer rate increases are a thing that many communities are facing and doing. with that 5% rate increase that I showed, you're still kind of in that middle, lower end of the middle tiers of those. And then really from a recommendation standpoint, it's been quite a few years since you guys have done a comprehensive rate look. And when I say that, you're kind of looking at rebalancing fixed charges versus volume charges. In addition to that, I have been down to the council in the past. You are facing potential plant improvements in the next few years. So with that, we really think it's time to take a hard look, right? You're spending quite a bit of revenue each year with upgrades at the treatment plant. So it's likely time to really take a hard look at that comprehensive look that you need to do every 5 to 10 years, just to make sure everything's balanced and being done properly. Take a look at your fund balance and things of that nature. So that's really our final recommendation that we have with that.
I appreciate that, because the next question would be, if we didn't have the rescue funds, what would we do? Because we got lucky. So
Right.
there's more in the future that I'm concerned about. The future is,
Right, so what we would have to have done would probably be to postpone replacing those blowers one more year. The reason we really need to do the SCADA upgrade is, one, that equipment is obsolete. But then with this plant upgrade, we know that we need to have our SCADA upgraded before we can even consider doing the plant upgrade. So we would have tried to extend our blowers for one more year, but we would have had to replace them in 2023.
okay. And you think the survey will help us? Does it do both? Does it do not only just what we charge on, but how we can reduce cost?
Yeah, when you do a study like that, you'll take a look at the expenditures anticipated for the next 5 to 10 years, and then take a look. Does it make sense? As you guys will have debt start rolling off, does it make sense to pay for some of this with another debt issuance? And keep those rates at a decent level amount. And then what do you build in for some of these CIP items as well into that? So it'll look at different alternatives with that. There are different funding alternatives out there right now that you can look at. It'll look at items like that. So it'll kind of give you that complete picture. And then the last picture of what you need to look at, as I indicated, what do you want as a council for cash balances? Depreciation, we keep kind of showing below the line. Do you want to start pre-funding some of that depreciation? So when you have items like blowers or like SCADA systems, equipment that needs replaced, do you have cash on hand already to pay for that? And so it's kind of a decision point. And yes, it will look at the full gamut. That type study will look at the full gamut of options and alternatives and bring them back to you as a council to look at what makes the most sense to you.
And then when do we get that finalized? When do we do it?
The comprehensive
Yeah.
study, we're gonna get started on that right after we do this.
That takes how long?
It's a bit of a process, a couple workshops in the middle of there. So it'll probably take, 4 or 5 months from the day you start it to the day you're back kind of making decisions about it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So item number 6, first reading only, ordinance. Ordinance approving fiscal year 22 civic organizational contracts by Marcella.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. So before you this evening is the actual contracts that were included in the budget for our community partnerships that include, our Big Brothers and Big Sisters, the depot renovation, the Johnson County EDC Board, the Oates contract, which provides your bus services, Pioneer Trails Regional Planning Commission, the Warrensburg Convention and Visitors Bureau contract, Missouri Main Street contract, Whiteman Area Leadership contract. And so those funding levels were budgeted and given to you at budget and again with this report. So first reading is recommendation to approve those as they were presented during budget.
Okay. Questions, John? All right, item number 7, other business. 7.1, a resolution approving the installation of a public art mural by Main Street Incorporated on the retaining wall on the north side of City Hall building along Marshall Street.
Thank you. Here, will you go ahead and there you go. Good evening, Mayor and City Council. I am before you this evening presenting a project that Mason Floyd had been working on for the last several months with the Arts Commission. Mason's last day with the city was on Friday, but as we were just discussing earlier, he did a lot of work for us. And so kind of wrapping up some of those projects, and this is one of them. Main Street has shown an interest in, putting a lot of public art throughout downtown, creating an ambiance, creating an atmosphere in our downtown area. They've been working with some artists who are interested in putting this mural. So this sun that you see before you is actually our Warrensburg Sun, and it is done in a repetitive pattern over and over in several different colors. And they asked us if we would be interested in having the artist do this on the back retaining wall of City Hall. This is actually a public street, so we have lots of residents who use our sewer drop box that are right there. This is also the employee entrance next to community development and for public works. But more importantly, folks will be able to see this from the Amtrak train. So they will be able to see as they go through Warrensburg that we have something that's very creative, something that's interesting when they pass through here. And hopefully they would be interested in maybe jumping off that Amtrak the next time they pass through. So we, Main Street, this would be funded with their funds. They would be responsible for the maintenance of it. Of course, it is on our property, but Arts Commission reviewed this and spoke with Main Street about it, and they recommend approval.
This is the best design we could come up with.
So there were lots of different designs and arts that they put forward. Main Street's very they like this design. They think it's one of the artists that they came up with. Again, just a reminder, it is the sun that is in our logo. And so they put it forward, and
I'm on the city council. I wouldn't have known that if you didn't tell me.
What?
That's our son. I wouldn't have known that if they hadn't told me. I mean, granted, I'm not the most artistic guy in the world, but I wouldn't associate that with the Warrensburg. Before they were told, did anyone else know that was the son? Like, I could be the only guy. Like, I get
To
it.
be candid, yeah, I knew that was.
Okay.
Yeah, I knew.
I wouldn't have made that connection if I didn't have the context.
I think it's a fairly good design, and I think it'd be colorful, and I mean, sorry, can you not hear me? I think it's a good design. I think it'd be colorful right there for the location, like you said, right as people are passing by on Amtrak. It'd be something that's eye-catching.
I think it'd be a great location for a mural. I just like that particular design. I don't think you really, unless you're really keyed in on our logo, I don't think it's not like a Nike swoosh. I mean, we're not at that level.
Yeah, but one of the things we're gonna have to deal with is arts and the eye of the beholder. We do have a commission that went through, and so we're gonna have to, not everything that we do is gonna have each of our specific fancies tickled on it.
Is this the final design?
This would be the final design, yes.
All right, I just wanted to. Yeah, I'm fine with it.
Yeah, I'm gonna go.
Not so much.
So where does that put us with three of us here?
So we need a motion to approve the resolution allowing the installation of this mural on the retaining wall of the north side of City Hall.
We can table this until the next meeting.
So this is a resolution.
Yeah.
An ordinance requires 3 affirmative votes since it's a 5-member board. A resolution is a simple motion,
Yeah.
so a majority of the quorum
Okay.
is necessary for passage.
Well, I move to approve resolution. So,
Brooks,
No.
Bentley,
yes.
Holmberg,
Yes.
Thank
I
you.
have one other request. A couple years ago, Chief went to a class where it talked about art in the community and impact on crime. In my travels around, I see communities doing it, and I'm very pleased that overall, and not necessarily every design, overall, the community is getting a lot more involvement in art and we've got stuff going on. I mean, you're seeing it on the Legion, et cetera. Can we have Chief present some of that information to us as council? I think it would be good for us and the community to hear how these actions positively can impact us. So I would be interested in that.
Absolutely.
So,
We'll get something prepared for you all.
Is
Thank
there-
you.
Sorry,
go ahead.
is there a way, I know we're putting it on the retaining wall, the wall above that. Is there any way to identify city of Warrensburg without affecting the integrity of the design?
So that wall is actually brick, and so I'm not sure,
We would be able to paint. We'd probably have to purchase some additional signage. And that's something we could price and we could look into and bring that forward for you.
Okay, yeah.
The other
Just to
thing I
associate,
think too,
yeah.
though, is at this point, if you're any council members feeling that you're getting the information later than you need, if we want to have staff look at how to change the process to get in earlier, we can do that. But once we the way our structure works, once we put it through the different processes, it's it's an all or none, in my opinion. So we can change the rules in the box, but
So currently how our process is set up is that the Main Street presented this to Arts Commission. They talked about it, Arts Commission passed and made their recommendation, and then we brought that forward to City Council. So if anyone's interested in having a discussion about changing that process, we can absolutely have that.
Thank you.
okay. Item number 8, appearances to the council not listed on the agenda. All right, miscellaneous matters from the mayor and or city council.
I would like at the next meeting to have time set aside for discussing the trash situation. Let people come in and comment. I realize that we don't have much in the way of options. There are a couple options as I understand them. One of them would be a bit extreme. It'd be nuclear, which would be taking the trash and making it a citywide contract. And I'm sure there's more options out there, but I think that's something we need to start discussing. If the company can't do its basic function, we need to make sure that people have a way of at least feeling heard and discuss what are our options as a council. Do we talk about taking their business license? Do we talk about transitioning to a different system? Or, what is in our toolbox? I know I have gotten multiple calls from multiple people and multiple calls from some specific individuals about this. And I realize that as it sits right now, we can't do much about it, but I do think it's something that is affecting our community. It's affecting it's affecting our community. Like, there's a lot of anger and resentment right now. And I'm sure they paid a good amount of money for Heartland. And I think the prospect of us taking Warrensburg out of the equation probably won't sit well with them. But maybe we could get a trash truck or a dumpster delivered on time.
So,
Go ahead.
so I think, we always set aside time for the community to come and speak about things. So I don't know. I know staff has been trying to reach out to them with no return calls. I myself have tried to call them and got a voicemail every time I've called. So
I've been trying this is just me.
Uh-huh.
I've been trying for a month to get a dumpster they took and didn't know that they took it.
Yeah.
So we had a dumpster. We didn't have a dumpster. I get it. That's a personal contract issue. But I'm I'm getting calls from people all over the place that are saying that their trash hasn't been picked up
Yeah.
in weeks.
But I think we should allow staff time to develop some kind of,
Right, which is why I'm saying not
So, yeah.
tonight, but at the next council meeting.
I think a work session that Danielle's been having us do quite a bit, where we're having an hour's time, their public session. And we dig into those toolboxes.
Is that something that we already have on the calendar? Because I'm not tracking.
No, it's something that staff's put on the calendar for their budget issues and the ordinance we did on nuisance grass or nuisance weeds and et cetera. So it would give us a set of time, and we've been doing them right before council, same day and stuff. So I think we need enough time to dig into what those things are. If we put something on the schedule, what's the difference between putting a spot on it and this session we've got right here where people can come and hear?
I think putting it on the agenda and mark, like pushing it out so that people know to come in and talk. And we can reach out to Republic and let them know that they're on the agenda, and that if they want to send a representative to explain their situation, since apparently they don't have enough time to talk to our city manager. As I understand it, wasn't that rescheduled multiple times? Did the conversation finally happen?
So we have a meeting scheduled for 10:30 a.m. on Thursday.
Was that the original appointment? What was the appointment before that?
This is probably our fourth or fifth time getting this meeting rescheduled.
Okay, so we're apparently not a priority. So I think if they're not willing to communicate with us, we need to talk about other options. And I think,
Now, we don't disagree on that.
and I don't think that I think, 2 weeks, making them know that we're gonna have a presentation that they can attend about our other options, would have been nice a month ago or two when they took over. So when did they take over exactly?
I believe it was August 1st.
August 1st. So we're 2 months. Okay, so I get it. First month, it's pretty rough. Taking and figuring out a new business, there's a lot of moving parts. I get that.
I think also we need to make sure that we have all the information of what we can actually do. I mean, it's a private
too.
business, we can't just go in and say we're taking this and taking that. We got to make sure that we're.
I'm not saying that we say we're going to take this or take that, but do you feel like our staff isn't capable of figuring out the options in 2 weeks?
I didn't say that, but I want to make sure that we're thoroughly researching everything so we know all the.
Because I have a lot of faith in our people. I think.
No,
because
it's not even, and Danielle can speak on time. It's not the capability. It's the task saturation of what other things are going on and stuff. Before I go into personally discussing whether we go through the process, the city taking like a citywide contract or something, I want a very clear understanding of it, because while I do understand it's an issue at my house as well, we can't take their license. I mean, there's to be like, if I get enough complaints about a real estate business or a restaurant, or, I mean, just because I agree it's big, but
Well, that's what I'm saying is we can discuss what options are out there at the next meeting, and then give them guidance on which ones we want to explore after that. Something like this is going to take like anything we want to do is going to take months. This is government. We don't do anything in 2 weeks. Not if we're smart. Because once we do something, it's like trying to polish crystal with a hammer. But I do think that 2 months is plenty of time for them to have figured out how to pick up trash. I think 2 months, there's a lot of people that are angry And I think having it on the agenda sets a certain, it denotes a certain weightiness to the subject. And, you know, maybe when we have a meeting, no one comes, no one cares. Maybe it's not that big of an issue to most people.
Okay, so I agree with
But I-
understanding the tools. What would a person say to you and I and the rest of council? What do we do after they say something?
I think a lot of times understanding, just making yourself available to be heard and to make sure that you put it in a format where it says, this is officially, we want to hear from you, not just if you happen to be able to have internet access or a cell phone, you can get in touch with us, but we're putting it on the agenda. It's so important that we are asking the community come and talk to us. Sends a message to the community. We have heard what you're saying, and we're interested in learning more.
I would say I have received several calls, emails about this. And I understand their concerns and frustrations, but I think Republic is the one that needs to hear those.
And
I don't know if
apparently
they're
Republic's
actually-
not wanting to talk to us.
So I don't see how us having that. I mean, I agree, give them an opportunity to come and talk, but I don't know. It's not being spoken to the people that need to hear it.
Or on the other side of it, this is an opportunity for Republic to come and explain the situation during a city council meeting.
And I think if that meeting occurs, then, I mean, you could extend that invitation and we can go from there. And then if it is put on the agenda that they're going to be here to provide a presentation or something, then that would be enough time for people who want to come speak to them.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear that last
I
part.
was saying, if she extends an invitation to them and they agree to come to the next council meeting, then it could be, and they want to present their side of it, then it would be on the agenda for the public to have a notice enough to come in and speak to them.
I think notifying them that it's going to be on the agenda and inviting them to attend as well sets a different tone with how important this is to our community as a whole. I've heard more about this than the old drum animal shelter. Right? I mean, it's being talked about. I'm seeing it on Facebook every day. And people are going, WTF, mate. And I'm telling people, hey, there's not really much we can do because it's not our lane. But they want to know why we're not even talking about it.
Like I said, let's start with the first step of seeing if they attend this meeting, and then Mr. Wynn can share with them concerns and what we want to see moving forward.
So if they don't attend this meeting, they reschedule for a 5th or 6th time.
I mean, then it's noted that staff's gonna start looking at options.
I think we should go ahead and have staff look at options.
Yeah.
And I think they need to know that we're looking at other options. Because it's amazing how when someone tells you, hey, I'm thinking about finding a new boyfriend, that all of a sudden you buy that extra rose. I mean, maybe they can't, maybe they are actually, and actually, you know what? Will give them the benefit of the doubt. I actually do believe that they are stretched way past their ability. Like, I don't think they want to provide this level of service. I don't think that's the standard, what they expect. But why not at least?
I want to caution the council that a decision about what's going on in future agenda is an appropriate discussion, but to get into the substantive issues surrounding this, it's not on the agenda.
Yeah, that's up.
So I think it should be on the upcoming agendas is all I'm trying to say. I noticed that I had asked for it to be on this agenda. I noticed that it wasn't. And yeah, so I'm requesting for it to be on the next agenda. I don't know if there's a,
So I'm hearing two different directions that we could go here. I think we could absolutely, have a sub item under appearances to council, not listed on, we could do a public hearing, public comment piece, and we could list that on there. But I'm also hearing that we might be interested in having a work session. My recommendation would be to have the work session, allow staff to do some more research, dive into previous discussions that were already had by the city of Warrensburg several years ago as it related to a contract, contracting citywide for trash services. So allow us to do some of that research, pull those minutes, talk through what that process might look like, what some of the benefits would be, what some of the cons would be, and allow us to put together a well thought out presentation for you at the second meeting in October.
I'm fine with that. Second meeting of October sound. Is that all right with?
I would prefer that, just, I'm a research person, so.
No, I agree. I want to know what it is that we're capable or not capable of before, we chat. So, all right, anything else? No one? All right. I've got one thing that I want to share with, and Nolan bringing up Facebook, just kind of highlighted it. I'm aware as the staff, I've seen their various departments take a lot of heat on public media. And personally, I want to tell you that, and publicly, I appreciate what staff does. I don't appreciate when our community goes into the, just a dumpster dive mode, if you will, to keep it professional if I can. You do an awful lot for the community. And I wish that as society, sometimes we didn't get that way, but thank you for what you do. It is appreciated, and it's appreciated by a lot of folks. And I do understand we get passionate, but we seem to be in a culture where we're more willing to just say harsh things. And I don't appreciate that. And I do appreciate what you guys do for us as a community. So I really wanted to say that and look at it. I don't engage personally in Facebook stuff. I actually wanted to once, and our chief said, you don't want to get legs. And so I think about it, but I don't. But I'm very comfortable in a public forum here, looking at every one of you and telling you, thank you for what you do. And I apologize that sometimes it gets rough. All right. Anything else? All right. Director of Finance report, Marcella.
There's lots of information there. I believe that the city's in good position as we finish up the year. That's takes you to the end of August that was posted when this report was put together. So.
Any questions for Marcella? All right, city manager report.
The only two items that I have to add, unless staff has anything else they want to bring up this evening, is their Journey Home is hosting a forum on homelessness. I know that has also been a topic that we've discussed quite a bit in city council, and that we've seen some comments on Facebook, and we've received a lot of feedback on that as well. So that will be Thursday at 6:30 p.m. at the community center. The other item I was going to bring up was that the meeting with Republic has been rescheduled to 10:30 a.m. on Thursday. We are still planning on doing a Facebook Live. They have asked for a list of questions that we plan on asking. So if you have any burning questions you want to make sure I get asked, please send those to me. Right now, I think we're going to focus on kind of telling us about the acquisition, how the acquisition, when it was acquired, what their process was, and the challenges they've been experiencing. Also talking about some of the labor shortages that have not only been impacting the city of Warrensburg and Kansas City, Missouri, but the solid waste industry throughout the nation.
No, I guess to Councilman Brooks' point, very specific to Warren, because what do they think they need to do to get Warrensburg I do care about the nation, but right now it's very localized, so what levers to pull and if there's any way that we can help or somebody, so something. Anything else? Well, this meeting is adjourned.
You said the homeless